Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome along to what is the 7th webinar in the series of the collaboration between Property Tribes and Lendlord, which we are calling Lendlord Digital Life. And we're really encouraging landlords to adopt a digital approach. And I think this is even more important following all the fallout from COVID-19 lockdown. I'd just like to say I hope everybody had a wonderful summer holiday, and we are now transitioning into autumn and winter, and it's kind of a good analogy for what is happening in the private rented sector. And as we approach into winter, things are going to change in the private rented sector, and there are a lot of challenges coming and a lot of headwinds that landlords are going to experience. And our aim through these webinars is really to equip you with the best tools to really, come through these challenges and survive. And many landlords are thinking that now is the time to sell up in a very small window of opportunity while prices are artificially inflated and these tax changes could be coming, although there is a lot of revolt against it by Conservative Party members. So it's not a given, but it is a threat on the horizon. And this is why tonight's webinar is going to be looking at the performance of properties, because you need to understand their performance in order to determine whether they are worth keeping or whether you would be better off without those properties dragging your entire portfolio down. And I want to highlight that digital tools can be updated in real time, and this is very valuable to you as an investor, because for instance, when the stamp duty holiday was introduced, Aviram and his team were immediately able to update the stamp duty calculator on the Lendlord platform so that it gave the correct stamp duty liability based on the new measures. And Aviram, I think this is one of the important things about digital tools, is that we can update them in real time, and you've added lots of new features and elements to Lendlord from when we last had our webinar. So there's actually a lot to talk about, and one of the things to highlight is how quickly and how responsive Lendlord can be to the landlord environment.
Yes, so thanks, Vanessa, and hi, everyone. So, yes, this is like our vision is basically to provide the best and the ultimate tool for landlords and to keep being up to date with the recent changes. And we do it like in many aspects of the platform. During the COVID, during the payments holiday and the lenders changes in their criteria, we updated the platform on a daily basis, and also with the tax changes. So today, and we launched it in early August, you can also track your estimated tax liabilities on Lendlord. And of course, you mentioned the new stamp duty that is now part of the profit and loss model and the deal analyzer. And I agree with you that the main thing when you hold properties and you manage a portfolio is to be on track. And this is like one of our main goals. And the goal of this webinar today is to demonstrate how you can use Lendlord in order to keep track of your property's performance. And also I will introduce some new features that basically can do it for you. And I think we can start.
Yeah, I just wanted really just to add as well, Aviram, about the importance of real-time information and having accurate information. It always gives you a bit of an edge, doesn't it?
Definitely. And because of that, we also launched a mobile app, so you can take everything with you, like your property data to anywhere, and you can review the things that you need to review. And we also enhanced over the last few weeks a lot with feedback that we get from users, the attributes that you can currently capture on each property. We've added a property page that will also demonstrate how to use it, and you can upload documents and many other stuff and other things. And I think this is the future. Like, if you want to be up to date, you need to adopt the digital tools such as Lendlord.
Right now, we're just going to do a quick run through of some of the updates and new features and tweaks to Lendlord that have been undertaken over the summer break. And the first one is tracking the property details via the My Portfolio page.
Yeah, so what we're going to demonstrate this webinar is a use case of a portfolio, and how you can track the performance of the portfolio properties, how you can evaluate your properties for the long term, and how you can evaluate new potential acquisitions and run what-if scenarios, and you can see how your portfolio might perform also for the long run. So we will start, as you mentioned, Vanessa, with My Portfolio. So My Portfolio is the place to capture all the relevant details on each property. The new feature that we've added last month is the map view. So you can also, by clicking this map view or table view, if you want to going back, you can see your properties on a map, and a Google map. So you can also drill down, and it's like another way to see your portfolio and the distribution geographically. So so the use case will start with the My Portfolio. In this use case, I have two properties on my portfolio. One is on a company ownership, and this, if you see this icon, it means that it's a company-owned property. The second one is a private-owned property. In order to add a new property, you can click on Add Property. You'll have the sidebar, the right sidebar. And you can type the address, use the autocomplete of Google Maps, and put all the other relevant details. It's separated by sections, and you don't need, there are no mandatory fields. You can basically put any field that you want and click on Done, and it will basically save the data that you entered so far. And then you can edit it again, and let's say add the mortgage details on this property. And you have many sections. You have the property details, and then you can specify more details that you want to capture. And you have other details about your landlord insurance, gas certificates. Any date that you put here will create a notification for you, and will also be visible in the dashboard as your future due dates. So once you've added a property, I will delete this one. Another important thing, when you delete a property, you can mention, like, check that you deleted it because you entered it by mistake or because you sold it. If you sold it, the platform basically will keep the history of your portfolio. And the property page, and in the dashboard, you have the chart of the historical growth. So basically impact this growth, this chart, and you can basically track also your purchase and sales. In this case, I will mark enter by mistake because I want to use only those two properties for the example. So after you enter the relevant data, mainly on the property details, so what was the purchase price, the purchase date, what is the current property value. If you want to use an estimation, we have integrated to and partner with property data. So you can put some details on the property and get an estimation, and or not just an estimation, of course. You need to assess it, but it definitely can give you some kind of indication where the price is. You can use this price, or you can put your own price. after you put the property details, put the mortgage fields, because this will definitely impact your metrics. So it's important to put the mortgage balance, what is the current mortgage balance, if it's a capital and interest mortgage or it's interest only, what is the rate, when is the expiry date, or if it's like a fixed rate. And if you put this date, you will get a notification to your email and in here when the product is about to expire. What is the monthly cost? You can also calculate it, the platform calculate it for you according to the details that you already entered. If you click on calculate, early redemption fee will help the engine to understand if you have like mortgage opportunities and to calculate how much you will need to pay in early redemption fees. And you can put other details, but for the performance aspects, I think that those two sections are the most important one.
And how would you register a cash purchase, Aviram?
So in order to basically to say it's like free mortgage or unencumbered.
Unencumbered.
Yeah, very difficult word for me. You just need to click here yes and put of course 0 on the original mortgage balance, non-mortgage balance, and the platform will take it as a cash investment. I will show you in a sec how to also track your purchase costs that will also impact the performance metrics on Lendlord. So this was the first step. I tracked all the relevant details that might impact my performance, the property details and the mortgage details. Now, and this is something that we get a lot of questions from users, where I track my monthly expenses. So we separated it. So my portfolio is basically your current snapshot. And basically in the backend, it means this is like the September 2020 snapshot. This is like the current state. When you update, like when you first add property, we will take some of the data to the profit and loss where you can track your monthly expenses. But if you added the property in phases, you can always go to the profit and loss and set up the data to be, and I will show it right now. So if you go to profit and loss, you will see a view of your entire portfolio, and you can see below the charts, the main chart, you can see the development of the profit and loss expenses and income over the years. And this is basically something that we take according to the purchase date that you put on my portfolio. This is the place also to update the history, if you want, of your income and expenses. And it sounds okay, how now I'm going to do it, like to update 48 months, because we keep a lot of history. So there are ways to do it. I can say that something that we are now working on after like getting requests from users is to upload Excel spreadsheet with your historical expenses, and perhaps in the future like integration to bank account or accounting system. But currently what you can do is first go to the existing month. How you do it? You click on the chart on the September month on the bars, and you are now in September. This is the indication. Click on monthly income. You will see like the income on this month. The monthly expenses, you see the expenses bars over the month. Vice versa over the yields and the cash on cash. First, I want now to track my monthly expenses. Click on edit, then the sidebar will be open. Here you can see the mortgage payment that usually come from my portfolio. If the mortgage payment is not, it was not like 345 over the years, you can go back and update the historical data. How you update historical data? So when I open a new property, what I do, I go to the last months first. I put all my fixed expenses. Then I make sure that the recurring expense is checked if it's like something that I want to carry over month by month. Then after I set up all the fixed expenses, I click on copy expenses backwards. I check all the expenses that I want to copy to historical months, and I pick the period that I want to copy it to. So let's say from January 2019 to September 2020. In this case, I already copied it, but once you click on copy expenses, the platform will take it backwards. If you want to do it just for 2019, you can go to December 2019, and let's say that my mortgage payment in this year was only £300. I click done. Then you see just December 2019 has changed. I click on copy expenses backwards and mortgage payment. And let's take it from January to December 2019. And you can see that now we have 300 on each month. So this is the way to set your historical data. But from now on, basically, you need every month to log into your Lendlord account and track the monthly expenses. And as I said, hopefully in the near future, you will have also like automatic ways to track your monthly expenses. Currently, you can do it by using the recurring expense and just make sure that you got the payment on this date. So the platform will carry it over. You just need to make sure that you paid, it's not an income, you paid this expense. Okay, so this was, so Vanessa, I think this was the part of how you track the data in my portfolio and in the profit and loss.
Can we just jump in with a question, please, Aviram? Can you just remind us how to input the expenses for utilities?
Sure. So if, by the way, any expense, also like a one-time expense, can be added, and also another fixed expense can be added by clicking on the Add Expense button. When you click on it, you will, there is another box with a gray background.
Yeah, there's a drawer with loads of things that you can legitimately claim for. So it's actually quite useful when you're doing your tax return. You can see what you can actually claim for. Make sure you claim for literally everything that you're entitled to claim for.
Exactly. So you can pick utilities, gas, for instance, and put the amount. If it's a recurring expense, put a recurring expense, and then click on done. By the way, important thing, make sure that the drop down here is with the property that you are now updating. Click on done, and I've added this expense. If I want to also copy the utilities, gas backwards, I can do it. And another thing, you have a category tied to each expense, so you can use the drop down here, and you can pick a category for this expense. I will pick utilities. And when I do it, if I click on expenses breakdown, I can see my breakdown of the expense. This is for the September, and I can see it for the entire portfolio or specific property. I can also play with the categories if I want to see just the maintenance or just the insurance, or if I want to see all the categories. You can also go and scroll and see all the expenses in one list, and you can also upload a receipt from here. And if it's from our mobile app, from your mobile phone, it will, if you click upload, it will open your camera on your phone, so you can basically take a picture of the receipt and store it in here. You can also export the data in one click to an Excel spreadsheet. So this is another thing that we launched in August, the categories. And once you type the expense to a category, it will carry it over to other months as well.
Yeah, I think utilities is quite an interesting topic as an aside, because throughout COVID-19 lockdown, obviously tenants were at home a lot more and were probably using a lot more utilities in HMOs. So you may have seen your utility bills increasing over that time. And obviously, I think, with the trend to be working from home, certainly a couple of days a week, utility usage among tenants that have an all-inclusive rent may well go up. And we could just drop in here that we do have a affiliate with was it Look After My Bills? Let me just double check. I always get this wrong. Yes, Look After My Bills, which is a really innovative company. Actually appeared on Dragon's Den, and all the dragons wanted to invest in it, but I use it, and it automatically searches the best utility tariffs for you for gas and electricity, and automatically changes you over every year so that you always get the cheapest possible utilities, and there is the option to do that for multiple properties. So if you're not using Look After My Bills, I would definitely recommend that you do it, and obviously if you use our little affiliate link, Lendlord gets the princely sum of £10 towards its running costs. So please do support Lendlord platform as free to use by using those affiliates, etc. Really do appreciate it. I've just had a changeover actually with this for one of our properties, and it was seamless. I actually didn't have to do anything other than tick a box that I wanted to move to the cheaper supplier. So you enter your data once, and then you get cheaper utilities in perpetuity. Again, a digital tool giving you the edge. And there's so much data out there now that these companies can open source into all the different utility suppliers and get you the best deal for your properties. So what's not to love about that? Definitely consider it. We've got Siva saying that her utility bills for her HMOs change every month. I'm afraid in that instance, Siva, you would just need to, when the bill comes in, just make that routine that you go into that property and put the actual bill in. What I found with Look After My Bills is that it's a monthly payment, and it's the same payment every month because it's calculated across the year based on your kind of estimated energy use, if you like. So for the most part, most utility suppliers make it a monthly payment even out across the year. But if you need to put in individual ones, then I'm afraid it's just a matter of when you get the bill to pop it on, as Avram has just demonstrated. Okay. I think the next thing we were going to talk, Avram, about is rental coverage, because clearly we've seen through COVID-19 fallout that some landlords have had very weak business models, largely due to not having sufficient coverage, really, of the mortgage to the rent. And slim margins in property are risky, and even in the good times. But now they're even more risky with what's happening in the post-COVID-19 landlord world. So I do think reviewing your portfolio and looking at your rental coverage on a fairly regular basis is important. And Avram's got a little demonstration to show us how you can look at your rental cover ratio and just see if any particular properties are at risk. Now, clearly, if you have significant other income, then you're not going to be too worried about this. But if you don't, then you do need to have these kind of potential low quality properties on your kind of radar, because you may need to make decisions about them going forwards, whether they're actually worth keeping.
Right. So the way to basically see your rental cover ratio is to click on the stress test link above the main table. Then you get first a summary. What is your current portfolio rental cover? The highest that this percentage is, the better your portfolio is now in terms of the current rent that you expect to get. But the second field is the portfolio rental cover at risk. We calculate it so you can basically edit this input field by either using the LHA or universal credit rate, or after negotiation with your tenants, or you know what is going to be the reduced rent, or even if you want like just to see what is the worst case scenario, you can put any number here. We take the monthly mortgage payment costs from the My Portfolio, and we take the other monthly costs from the profit and loss, but you can also change that. And now we also change the platform so you can save this data for the next time. The second number, portfolio rental cover at risk, if it's red and it's like below 100%, it means that you pay more expenses than you get income. So this is your current monthly burn rate, and this is the monthly cash flow after, it's like the net cash flow. So basically, if it's this number is red, it means that you need to do.
You're in a danger area. We do hear, Avram, of so many landlords that just quote gross rental coverage, and it really is the net figure that's clearly the most important. These net figures are actually, you know, vital to know and understand.
Definitely. So this was the rental cover ratio and the stress test of the portfolio. Now we'll touch on Vanessa, on the performance metrics.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing before we start reviewing the metrics, I would recommend also to review and track your purchase costs. So the purchase cost will impact the baseline of your cash investment. How you do it? You go to the profit and loss page. You can pick a property from here, and you can click edit on the purchase costs. Then a sidebar of the purchase costs will be opened, and you can basically track the purchase cost when you purchase the property. The stamp duty is calculated, and we, as Vanessa mentioned, we are now supporting different calculations according to the date. So it takes into account the changes in the stamp duty calculation if you purchase the property after the date that it was changed. You can log any refurbishment that you did, and the date, of course. And all of these will basically impact your baseline. This is the cash investment. Now, in order to track the performance, I go back to My Portfolio. In July, we introduced views. So basically, you can use our predefined views. Currently, we have default, performance, and equity view. The equity view is the simple one. You just can see like how much equity you have on each property. The default basically takes the property general details and the mortgage details. The performance will also change your summary glance above the table. So the performance view basically provides you with high-level overview of how your portfolio is performing and how your properties are performing. And you can, of course, play with the filters. If you have like a large portfolio, you can play with the filters. It can be filters if you like have private-owned properties or company-owned properties. You can also put properties on different company names and also filter that. If we have time, I will show it in a large portfolio example after that. And you can also play with the owners of the properties and filter by that. Now, what you see here, last 12 months net cash flow, it's something that we calculated according to the data that you put in the profit and loss. Next 12 months net cash flow is calculated based on our deal analyzer. So you can click here where you hover a property row on the deal analyzer, and it will open our deal analyzer with the existing data of this property. And the good thing with the deal analyzer that it looks on your property as like a new acquisition. Okay, what you did so far. So the first year will give you the ROI, basically the appreciation of the property over the years. It currently doesn't take the cash flow over the years because it's hard to say. We have only 5 years history. Perhaps you hold it for 20 years, but we'll see what we do with this after that. But the most important thing, you can get an indication how your property will perform in the future, and if it's like still like worth holding it or not. What will be like the IRR if I will hold it for 9 years or 13 years? What will be like my entire long-term ROI for this property? And I can also play with the long-term assumptions. So I can make assumptions in terms of the property appreciation, the annual rent appreciation, and also the inflation that might impact my cash flow in terms of my expenses. And of course, very important thing, you can play with the slider of the occupancy rate. What you expect will be your occupancy in terms of paying rent on this property.
I was just going to jump in there, Aviram, and say that we've had quite a few discussions on property tribes in the last few weeks of people that were in the twilight years of their landlord career, but that because of all the onerous things that are happening, they've decided to bring their exit date forward by a few years. And I think the tool you've just demonstrated there is incredibly valuable to such people to see how bringing their exit date forward could impact them, and to see the possible calculations around that. So again, having access to such valuable data really increases your ability to make wise decisions rather than just kind of floundering around in the dark. These metrics really do actually shine a light on the truth about your portfolio, and that's why they are so valuable. So sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but I just thought it was interesting in the context of some of the discussions that we've had on property tribes over the last few weeks.
Sure thing. Yeah, definitely. Another feature we have added like in August is the prospect page. So you can get the summary of the analysis that you did for prospect properties, but also for your existing ones. And what I like here is this chart. So you can see the development of your equity and mortgage balance. So if it's a capital and interest, obviously the mortgage balance will go down. If it's interest only, it will stay straight, but also the equity will go up because of property appreciation according to your assumptions. So you can review it for the long term. You can also review the development of your cash flow over the years according to your assumptions. So I will go back to the performance view. So you can see the next 12 months according to the deal analyze analysis. You can see your cash on cash in the last 12 months. Why we measure cash on cash? Because basically this is like the return on your cash. This is like the actual return you did in the last 12 months. Basically, we just take the net cash flow divided by the investment that you put on the property. When I say investment, is the cash investment when you purchase the property. Any investment you do over the years, the platform take it. You need to track it as a one-time expense, and we will take it into account to the cash flow of this specific year. Again, the next 12 month cash on cash from the deal analyzer. And we also provide the 10 years according to your assumptions. So how your return will look like in 10 years. If you go to the table, you will also see your equity, like according to your assumptions for the long term, how it will be in 10 years. You can add any fields that you want to this view by using the columns drop down. So I've added the capital gains tax that the platform calculates for each property because it's important for me to see it on the performance view. But if you want to add any other metric, you can also edit. So let's say I want to track also the next 12 months yield, say performance view, and I can see it in here. I also can order by. You can also create your own views. So you can create due dates view, put only the dates, create utilities view, put only the utilities data. So this was the way to see the performance. And you can also compare properties by just order by sort the columns. So if I want to see which property performed best in terms of cash on cash in the last 12 months, I can see like that this property was the highest. And I can do it, of course, on any column. I can do it also on just to see like the property value, which property the highest value, which property has the highest equity. And of course, like this is like the order by the sort of each column. So this was basically how to compare the performance of the properties. Vanessa, I think the next thing will be like to touch a bit like on prospect properties and how you can embed them as a what-if scenarios on your portfolio.
Yeah, because you may have identified that you've got a poor performer in your portfolio that's putting your entire portfolio at risk. There may be some reasonable equity in that property. You might think that now would be a good time to sell that property when there is a shortage of stock on the market and prices are artificially inflated. So you could take this window of opportunity to sell that property, hang on to your equity, and then when the market drops off a cliff next April or so, then you could be well placed to pick up some bargains and buy at a deeper discount and increase your net yields by going for a property that has a more positive net cash flow per month. So these are all the kind of what if scenarios you can kind of test out almost. People might say I have a crystal ball by saying I think the market's going to drop off a cliff next April. That of course remains to be seen, but the great thing about this is that each of us can kind of overlay our own kind of forecast about how we think the market's going to perform, whether rents are going to go down, stay static, even go up in some places, how a property is going to capital appreciate over the next years. Some may feel that property prices are going to go down, and you might like to put in your own assumption on that in the future assumptions. So all of this is completely customizable to your personal kind of view and opinion, and I think that is what makes it very exciting as well. And whether you're very pessimistic about what's happening or you're fairly neutral, either way, or even optimistic, that there's ways that you can program the software to give you a kind of overall view. And as I said earlier, it does really help with making smarter decisions based on data rather than things that landlords typically use like gut instinct or just a little calculation on a notebook. This is quality information for you to make decisions on. So prospect property, you can, as Avram said, I think we do have another webinar on this, which I can provide a link to, but you can essentially create a profile for a property and see how it impacts your portfolio if you were to add that property.
Yeah, so doing that, just click on Add Prospect and you open the deal analyzer, type any address you want. We embedded another page, postcode information. Currently we limit it for 3 searches per month. You can ask for more because we pay for this API, but you can search for data on this specific postcode and you can see the historical growth of the last 5 years. You can get some data on the property demand on this postcode, if it's a buyer or seller market. You can get some data on crimes on this property, on this postcode, rental demand, and also some data on prices per square foot, and some demographic data. So you can see like politics, distribution, commute method, and the distribution of age on this postcode. So it's another like thing to do, like a due diligence when you're going to purchase this property. By putting basically 2 fields, the purchase price and the expected rent, you will get the first metrics. Now you just need to tweak the data. So you have the stamp duty. You can make sure that this is the correct, if you have like only one property, of course, going down. You can put your refurb cost, if you have refurbishment or furnishing. Be conservative, put like extra, like use the other costs as well. Legal fees, mortgage fees, put all the fees that you think in order to be conservative, to make sure you take everything into account. You can play with the cash investment and see where is your great point to invest. And this, of course, will impact the mortgage. So, of course, you should be below 75% LTV usually. You can use our engine to search for mortgage products. I won't show it right now. You can also play with the monthly expected expenses. And as we showed before, with the long-term assumptions and how much time you want to keep this property. And you can see the metrics. You can drill down to the prospect report. And then save the prospect property. Now, on my portfolio, we don't show the prospect properties automatically. You need to check those. And you can add the prospect property to your portfolio view. Now you can view the metrics with this combination of two existing properties with another prospect property together. Now you can say, okay, I want to sell this property. So this is like the new combination. I can see like how my metrics looks like. I can change the performance view and see what will be like my potential next 12 months and what will be my potential 10 years. So this is like the way you can play with some kind of what if scenarios, but you can also use it to manage your pipeline. So you can put all in the prospect properties in here. You can put notes on each property. You can see it also on a map view. And here, by the way, like to put notes, you can do it from the deal analyzer or from the sidebar here. Say it's a nice property. So you can also put some notes. And you can also manage your pipeline for potential acquisitions in Lendlord, and you can see the what if scenarios in here as well.
Well, I think that's so useful, particularly if you are putting in a lot of offers on lots of different properties, probably quite cheeky offers. They may get rejected initially, but then later on, if the sale that they've agreed falls out of bed, they may well come back to you and say, actually, we are open to your offer. And then you've got your prospect property in the background there, and you can kind of rejuvenate it back up. And I had this discussion with John Howard recently on our Discovering Deals with John Howard week recently, and I told him the story of how I put an offer in writing to a developer, and I'd worked out that I needed a 16% discount to make this 4-bed townhouse in Basingstoke work, and they rejected the offer. But I tell this story because it highlights the importance of putting offers in writing, because about 6 months later, that property had been sold twice at the full market value to first-time buyers. But on both occasions, the sale fell out of bed. So 6 months later, this property popped up for sale again. The developer had closed down the site, shut down the sales office. It was the last remaining property. And well, they had my letter on their desk. So they phoned me 6 months later and said, are you still interested in this 4-bed house in Basingstoke, and we'll agree to your deal? And I was obviously naive at the time, because I said, oh yes, that's wonderful, thank you for the 16% discount. But John Howard said to me, well, Vanessa, you should have asked for more of a discount, because they'd come back to you. So you live and learn. But I think it just highlights again the importance of putting your offers in writing. We do have a template letter on property tribes, which we can link to below. But also to keep, as Avram described, this pipeline of properties just on a back burner, because you just don't know when the vendor or the agent might come back to you and say, actually, there is a possible deal here. So it's very useful from that respect as well, isn't it, Aviram?
Definitely. And I think this is a great, again, like if you use digital tools, everything stored securely in the cloud, available from your mobile as well. So yeah, it's a great thing to do, and basically to manage your portfolio like this.
Well, I just want to thank Tess for her lovely comment. She said the postcode information button is a great tool. You have saved us hours of searching and digging for information, which is all there at the click of a button. Absolutely brilliant, she says. Well, thank you, Tess, for your kind feedback. We really do appreciate that. And again, you've highlighted how powerful digital tools are, because they do have access to all this open source information and literally can pull it in at the touch of a button. And it's the smart way to work. It's what smart landlords do. They use all these digital tools to mitigate risk, give them a bit of an edge, make their life a lot easier. There's massive time savings, but also actually, monetary savings as well, because you're working so efficiently and utilizing the tools out there to help you get better deals all round. I think if we just go back full circle to the start of the webinar, I said that there were three things that I felt were major headwinds for landlords. Actually, I did leave one off, and please forgive me for that, because there's a fourth, and it's one of the most important ones, and that is the eviction ban U-turn. So that I know from Property Tribes that there are lots of landlords very, very fearful about not being able to evict tenants for, you've got to issue 6 months notice now, and with all the court backlogs and whatnot, it could be up to 2 years before you get possession of your property again. That is a major issue for landlords to deal with, and possible rent arrears that could go hand in hand with that. So again, using the Lendlord tool to look at what might happen if you have a tenant go into rent arrears, you could forecast how that could impact you if that rent arrears was to last for many months. It's almost kind of like having a crystal ball in a random kind of way, because you can make some assumptions based on the information that you have today. So we've had a question. I will share the offer letter template, by the way, Tess. Yes, it's been very popular on Property Tribes, and many people have fed back to me that they got a significant discount off a property because they used it, which is very gratifying to me that it's helped people in that way. Is it feasible to have a potential income tax calculator? Well, we already do have the tax highlights module on Lendlord. Obviously, with the proposed tax raid that will affect, this is the rumour, will affect inheritance tax, capital gains tax and income tax. Should that be introduced, then the Lendlord team would immediately change all the back-end code to reflect that in the calculations. What we can know is that COVID-19 bill is astronomical. It's beyond anything that any government has ever had to fund before, and that ultimately somebody somewhere is going to have to pay for it. So we need to be on our guard as business owners, and make sure that our businesses are running as efficiently as possible. And when it comes to selling a property, I do really struggle with that myself, and Nick's been very much more pragmatic about it and said properties are there to serve you. If they're not serving you, then you have to cut ties with them. I do feel more of an emotional attachment to them because I know what it took to acquire them, and I think it's something that we've all got to consider going forwards in these really, really uncharted waters, that we do need to take wiser and more pragmatic decisions based on data and not kind of emotion. and that's what we would urge everybody to consider. Any other questions, just as we come to the end here?
For the question about the tax, so yes, currently we have the estimated P&L report for your existing properties, separated by if you own private ownership or company ownership with the different calculations. Again, it's estimation. If you want assessment, you can use your, of course, tax advisor or accountant, or you can use our tax partner, Guardian, and tax and accounting. So you can see it here. For the question if we can do it for prosper properties or what if scenarios in terms of tax, it's definitely on our plan. So you can do some kind of scenarios, simulations for prospect properties as well. The other aspects of tax is now visible on the dashboard. So you can see the estimated capital gains tax if you sell the entire portfolio, but you can see it in my portfolio. Also, if you want to sell a specific property, what is going to be like the expected capital gains tax. And you can also calculate it going directly to the HMRC website. Where it is? Yeah, here. Calculate capital gains tax. It takes 2 minutes, so I'm not sure that we can demonstrate it right now. But what our technology does is that we're going directly to the HMRC website and basically trying to bring the most accurate result. And the next thing is the estimated inheritance tax and the estimated net income that you can see more details in the profit and loss page when you click on the estimated P&L report.
We do actually have a webinar on the Tax Insights module, which I can link to. This webinar will appear on Property Tribes tomorrow, and all the links that we've talked about will be included below this, so you can go on a learning journey of your own design when this is published tomorrow. Michelle has said, are we going to be sharing the cost to use this platform? Well, I'm assuming, Michelle, that you're asking how much it costs to use it. This platform is free to use. Our business model is to create an ecosystem of legitimate products and services for landlords, and you can support Lendlord by using those products and services. There's such things as insurance, mortgage brokerage, and affiliates from other things such as EPCs. That is the intention of this platform, to be funded by our commercial partners. And if that model works, then this platform will remain free to use. So that is currently free to use. We are building up the products and services in the background. And if you really enjoy this platform and want to keep it free to use, then you can actually play a part in its future by using our products and services. And we're going to continue to add more. We've got a very exciting partner joining Property Tribes called Aukspace. You'll see this on Property Tribes in the next day or two, but that is a digital platform that issues auction legal pack reviews for the cost of £95. So typically they would cost between £350 to £450, but Aukspace are doing it for £95. So this makes it far simpler to be able to pay for an auction pack review, even if you don't know that you're going to win the bid. And it's these kind of products that we're going to be adding in to the Lendlord ecosystem, so that you can do everything on one dashboard.
Yeah.
Nick's waving at me.
The last question about security.
Okay, Sheila's asking about security. Sheila, we do understandably get this question on a regular basis. We have addressed it in other webinars and also on Property Tribes itself, but essentially Lendlord has placed a great importance on this issue, and Aviram can just give you a few little details just to put your mind at rest that your data is secure on the Lendlord platform.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of security, and after that, I want to take one short note about the processes. In terms of security, in terms of documents, we have a UK legal firm that follows us in terms of all the GDPR regulation. We are have an NICO number like available in our website in terms of compliance. All the data is stored on AWS cloud in security groups under firewalls. The communication is encrypted, the passwords are hashed. No one of our third parties can access your data. This is very important. The only way that our providers will approach you is that if you keep your phone number. So let's say I want to take a landlord insurance, I want a call back, I can put a phone number. You need to pick a property, it's important, let's say all properties. And then the provider will get your phone number, the address, and your email. And that's it. And just when you specifically mention that you confirm that the provider will get this data. So we are not sharing your data. Also the team, in terms of support, not accessing your data, and users that already report logged issues, you know that the team ask the user if for the permission in order to investigate an issue, and this is like the only way that the support team will access the data, just with your explicit and written permission in our chatbot. So we invest a lot in security. We have an advisor on the cybersecurity and DevOps world that follow the company. So this is regarding security. Vanessa, one last thing about the processes. I think the main benefit to use our providers is that you can track your processes online. If you take a mortgage with our provider, you will see all the steps that your mortgage needs to go until completion. Also the steps that after you submit the application to the lender, and you get email notification on each step, like when it got progress, you get an email notification. You can also track the process online. Once it's completed, we share part of our commission with our users. I know it's not a lot, but if you do a lot of things with us, then you can earn some cash back from our commission as well. And we really will hope to keep this model, because we want to keep it as a free resource. So yeah, we encourage you to use our providers, and also to hear your feedback on our providers, and perhaps suggest your providers as well. Perhaps we can contact them and add them to our panel.
Yep, absolutely. We have overrun. I'm just going to ask one very quick question from Sean. He says, Aviram, on AWS, is all the data encrypted at rest, or is it only passwords?
In terms of the database, we hashed just the password are like encrypted, but all the communication is encrypted as well. So, and the data we use a Mongo database if it's of interest, and we have like a daily backups of the data in terms of data lost and things like that, and keep them for a period so we can basically recover if there is an issue.
Okay, sorry, Lewis has asked, do we only have one mortgage broker in the service section?
We have a broker, Crystal Finance is a packager, so he deals with bridging finance, commercial mortgages, and complicated buy-to-let. We are now speaking with him, but there are some users that ask for bridging finance, so we transferred them too. So, and yeah, I think we definitely perhaps like add more brokers as we go.
Yeah. Dennis is asking, he wants to know, can you assure us that the prospect data is inviolate? obviously, data mining of the prospects would be a dream for any landlord. Well, yes, we do understand your concerns, but no other landlord or indeed any of the team at Lendlord would be able to see your prospect properties.
No, of course no.
No. So you can rest assured. We do take this issue of security very, very seriously, and we do understand everyone's concerns. It's something that we're considering all the time of how we can make sure that it's bulletproof. And we do understand that. At the end of the day, we can tell you what we're doing, and it's. I guess there's a matter of trust in there as well. And we can just keep you informed of all the different processes in the back end that are ensuring that your data is secure. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us this evening. Apologies that we've overrun a little bit. It's gone 10 o'clock in Tel Aviv where Avraham is, so he's 2 hours later than us. But we hope you've got value from this Lendlord Cross Property Tribes collab webinar. It will be on Property Tribes tomorrow. I absolutely promise that the offer letter will be in the links underneath, so you will find it there. You do need to tweak it a little bit, obviously, to your deal, but you'll get the general gist of how I put my offers into when I'm in buying mode. Nick's asking me something. What, sweetheart?
Make sure we use the link below, as in tomorrow's post.
Yeah, it'll be in the link in tomorrow's thread on Property Tribes, along with a recording of this webinar if you want to review anything. But without further ado, we'll just say thank you very much for your time this evening, everybody. Thank you for the excellent questions. Thank you for your interest in Lendlord and your support of what we're doing. Very much appreciated on our part. We do want to create a community of like-minded landlords who are using the software and really helping themselves move forward. You will be the success stories of the future, we have no doubt, and we're here to support that. So thank you to Avraham over there in Tel Aviv, and also to Nick, who's been running the back end of the webinar. And good night from myself as well, and we'll see you next time. But in the meantime, do stay tuned to Property Tribes for all the goings on in the private rented sector. We've had 2 breaking news stories just posted this evening. Interestingly enough, the government have announced a number of tenant support measures, and it would be lovely if they came out with some landlord support measures, but we can only live in hope on that. But for now, I'm signing off and saying thank you as well, and see you next time.